If you're resistant to having business goals or knowing your numbers because it's too stuffy or not you, I totally get it. But today, I'm going to talk about a different way to look at business that might just influence how you see business goals as we head into a new year. Hey mama, do you find yourself wishing you knew you were on the right path with your business, or wanting to know how to do it all as a work-at-home mom and entrepreneur? If you struggle with imposter syndrome, mom guilt, or fear of failure, then you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Alexia, a Christian mindset coach, passionate about teaching moms how to renew their minds to find success both in business and motherhood. You can overcome the negative thoughts holding you back from fully stepping into your calling. I know what it's like to worry your business will never work, to feel mom guilt every time you work on your business, to realize your mindset is hindering you, but not knowing how to change it in a Christ-centered way. I created the Mama with a Calling podcast to teach you how to use the powerful combination of God's Word and proven mindset strategies to help you break free from negative, paralyzing thoughts and gain clarity and confidence to go where God is leading you. As you step out of the old way of thinking and into God's way, you'll find more peace, joy, and purpose. Pop in those earbuds and get ready to let God work in you so He can work through you. Hey there, and welcome back to the Mama with a Calling podcast. This is Alexia. Thank you so much for joining me again today for another episode. Before we get into today's episode, I want to let you know about biblical mindset sessions, the coaching sessions that I have. They are currently only $37. You heard me right, only $37 for an hour session. But I'm letting you know about them because at the end of the month, at the end of January 2023, the price is going to be going up. So I wanted to let you know so you could go ahead and grab one of those if you're interested. This is for you if you need a breakthrough around something that's been getting in your way. Maybe you need clarity around a business decision, or you want to reframe negative thoughts that keep creeping in, then I would love to help you as your coach. So just to give some examples of what I've worked on with other clients to see if this is a good fit, here are some recent examples. So 1, overcoming money mindset blocks, preventing action in your business, making a big decision around hiring or not, figuring out where God is calling you in your business, combating doubt and fear of failure so you can actually launch a business or get started or take that next big step. These are just a few of the examples so that you can see how coaching might help you. And if you're interested, just grab a session before the prices go up at the end of the month. Just go to mamawithacalling.com/coaching, and I look forward to helping you have those spirit-led breakthroughs. All right, so let's get into today's episode. So with all of the reflections looking at 2022 and then looking ahead into 2023 and all the planning things out there are a lot of different ways to go about this. I mean, I'm sure you've noticed everybody's talking about it still, which is interesting to me because I kind of thought this was something that we would normally do before the new year, but I guess there's also truth to the new year. It's like the holidays are a whirlwind. So now everybody's kind of breathing again and they're going, okay, well, what's 2023 going to look like? So January is still a month of planning and prepping and getting ourselves set up for this new year. And some people are super casual about it. You'll hear them talk about, maybe just writing down their top 5 wins. And then others are super methodical and detailed, like calculating all of the profit and loss and running all their numbers for their business. And at first, this made me cringe, honestly, because I have no interest in being quote unquote that kind of business, the kind where I look at all the numbers and the profit and loss and make decisions about what needs to stay and needs to go. Like I felt like that's how I was feeling. That's just how I was feeling, is that no, I don't want to do that. That makes me feel icky in some way. Like I just don't like it. But then God gave me a different perspective shift that I want to share with you today. So I was listening to different online, I won't give names, but like different podcasters of people who teach online business. And I was listening to one of them talk about their numbers. And my reaction to the first time of hearing this is that I was, like I said, I sort of had this, this feeling of absolutely not. I do not want to do that. I do not want to be in a place where I am analyzing numbers and calculating all of these things and looking at conversion rates and I don't know, like figuring out if I'm going to hire and what the team's going to be doing and having all these projections. And it just felt like really stuffy to me or something. And I was even started to question, maybe it's just not for me. Like I told myself, maybe that's just not for me. Maybe God's calling me to have a smaller business where it's only me, and I'm not really going to have a big team like that, and that kind of stuff. And then, I thought maybe that's just not what God's calling me to, right? That He called them to that, but not me. And because there are a couple of people that I've been following for years that now are in a place where they're making millions of dollars a year online. They have these teams of people, and they aren't really actively, like, they're changing their role in their business from what I've always known it to be. And I guess it's sort of opening my eyes to what is possible, right? When you grow an online business, what it can become. And I was like, I don't want that. Like, I want to still be able to talk to people. I want to always be in a place where I can do one-on-one coaching and all these things. And so I thought about that because I thought maybe some of you are feeling the same way. Okay, so there's that. Then after I had all that, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that, because I even then went and did like a bunch of planning myself for my own business. And I started I naturally gravitate toward kind of a data-driven strategy kind of thing. I as a scientist from before, I like numbers. I like to know. It's like a comfort zone kind of, where I really like to map it all out like that and have strategy and things. But that also puts me in a place where I feel like I'm losing, I don't know, like that I'm losing touch with God. And that's what I felt like when I was hearing these women talk about their numbers and stuff. So fast forward, I was listening to another podcast, another person talk about their numbers. And she did talk about the same kind of thing. Like, she's got a big business and all that. Except this time, this person talked about them wanting to grow their business and that it was at this level, and they were so excited, and they have hopes and plans for more growth because they wanted to expand on God's plan, they wanted to get the message that God had put on their heart, and that they wanted to do the things that God had asked them to do and put it out into the world. So business growth meant that was happening. And then I realized that's what I want too. I want to get the message of Mama with a Calling in front of as many women as possible, to help them start turning to God to lead them in their business and to find success in obedience to Him while doing the things that He's called them to do, to bring healing to their negative thoughts by getting into the Word so that truth can be revealed, so that they can do the things that God is leading them to do, that they would step out boldly and confidently and follow Him wherever He's leading them. That is so important to me. So then I started to have some realizations, some of which I feel are from God, and about being a business owner and having business goals that I wanted to share with you today, in case you're like me, where you're kind of like resistant to the whole numbers and the methodical, very like structured kind of business that way. And I wanted to share these because, like I said, that was me. But then I had these insights, and I just wanted to share these with you today. So the first one is about being a good steward of your business. So it doesn't mean that by keeping up with all these numbers that God is somehow out of the business, or that you're somehow not operating in faith. It can mean that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you have to watch yourself, right? But it doesn't mean it has to be, because being a good steward of your business means knowing your numbers. I think of Joseph and how when he interpreted the dream of Pharaoh, his job, even all of his jobs along the way, involved being a good steward and involved knowing numbers. So in Genesis 41:33-36, it says, "Now let Pharaoh look for a man discerning and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh take action to appoint overseers in charge of the land, and let him exact a fifth of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 years of abundance." And it goes on to say that he's going to gather the food and let the food become a reserve for the land for 7 years. So like that, knowing the numbers, he had to go on and actually enact this plan. And so he had to know the numbers or they were going to starve. And then, of course, we have the parable of the talents in Matthew 25:14-30. I will not read it all here, but you can go look at that. But essentially, it says that a man was about to go on a journey. He called his own servants and entrusted his possessions to them. He gave one 5, another 2, and another 1. And then it says that they put, it says in verse 16, the man who had received the 5 talents went, put them to work, and earned 5 more. So they had to know what their numbers were, being a good steward of that. And then, they are rewarded for their actions. But the one who just didn't do anything, the one who buried it and didn't do anything with it, didn't double it, didn't even try, he was called an evil servant. So in that way, being a steward of our business is no different. And so with that, I guess I just wanted to say, put it into perspective. Like sometimes we can have these internal battles where we may not like what that sounds like. We may not want to lose God in the midst of all of the structure and kind of businessy type things, but it doesn't have to mean that. I just want to, I guess, say it that way. It can mean, and this is important to constantly keep your heart in check. It can mean that you are being a good steward and that you are doing this work as unto the Lord. So that leads me to the next one, which is that we don't actually get to decide where God is leading. So this one hit me kind of hard because I was like, what if God is calling me to have $1 million business and to have a team and to do all this stuff? I don't know. So it was this like moment where I realized that God has called me to business. And if that's true, then I need to do my job the best I can, like do my best at being the best business person that I can be. And I think that this is a problem in entrepreneurship because part of the lure of it for all of us, I think, is that we feel like, and we're told, and it's true, that we can kind of become whatever we want to be. Like if we want to have this big business or small business, or you can do a podcast or YouTube, those things are all true. But just like in every other area of our lives, we need to seek where God is leading us and to walk in that. I think about Moses, my go-to guy here, and how God did not tell him, oh, and by the way, you're going to be leader of all of Israel for the rest of your life. He just said, can you go lead them out of Egypt, which he already freaked out about. But then it just kind of landed there. And that's probably because Moses would have freaked out even more and he couldn't handle it at the time. But there are other times where God really does give the full, like, this is what you're going to do. I mean, he told Paul that you are going to be the apostle to the Gentiles. So like he knew that it was a huge life shift from what he had been doing. And so, and there are other examples, right? But we don't get to decide. And we shouldn't even want to decide. And that was hard because it's like, if I'm really doing this for God, then I need to lay my plans down, to surrender them to Jesus. Jesus is Lord. So I just want to encourage you that, not to stop the path that you feel like you're heading down. If you feel like God is actually like this business could become this big thing, don't stifle it because you're scared or because you think you don't want that or whatever from where you stand now, because it's hard to identify with what it feels like to be way down there when somebody's making $1 million or whatever. Even if you haven't made any money in your business, the idea of actually quitting your job, it might feel like you want it, but it's also really different, really scary. It's uncomfortable. And so I don't want us to confuse the discomfort of stepping into a new identity and that discomfort of surrendering our plans and ourselves and literally walking wherever God says, like when Abraham was called out of Ur and told to just go to the land and I will tell you when. Like Abraham just walking, and I think it's like 800 miles. He just walked and he just trust that God's going to tell me when I've gotten there, wherever I'm going. That's the way I envision us, is that we need to say yes. Yes to starting the podcast. You want to start a podcast? Start a podcast. You feel like he's calling you to write a book? Write a book. And then the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, saying yes to whatever he's leading you to do and not deciding where you do or don't want to go based on your feelings about what you can do, what your life might look like, etc. Like that's a hard truth, but it's true. We need to trust God as he appoints us to each position and let him elevate you in due time. So 1 Peter 5:6 says, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that he may exalt you at the proper time. But in the same way, we think that we are being so humble. It doesn't mean that we Like, we don't need to elevate ourselves, but it doesn't mean resist being elevated, right? So I hope I can say that again. So don't resist God trying to elevate you and trying to put you in positions of power or success or influence by trying to keep yourself humble, right? It's the same thing as trying to elevate yourself, because in both situations, you're deciding, you're saying, I know better than God. He doesn't know what he's doing, and this is what I do or don't want to do. So checking your heart and to say, you know what, this business is for God. My life is for God. I'm going to let him decide where I go. So don't let that be a reason that you resist having business goals. If he's called you to business, you need to be a good steward of the business. And that involves having goals, knowing your numbers, keeping your heart in the right place, all of those things. Okay. And then the third insight that I think will help is that our journey isn't all about fun and comfort. There are going to be hard things. There are going to be uncomfortable things. There are going to be things that you just don't want to do. But we can't only seek our own pleasure and avoid all the stuff we don't like. So like I was saying, when I was listening to these women talk about where their businesses are and all the things they have to do, I was thinking, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not fun. That's not like, that doesn't, make me excited. And then it was like, I don't want to say that God's going to lead you down a path where you're going to hate everything about it, but I am not on the precipice of having $1 million business. So I can't even understand how I might feel at that level of growth. Right before that level of growth, you at every level, you're going to elevate, right? You're going to step into the next level. So sure, it feels way out of character for me to think about having $1 million business and whatever, but that doesn't mean that I get to avoid going that way by having business goals and knowing my numbers and all of that stuff, because I don't think I'm going to like it. And then it brings me down to every single thing we do in our businesses, which is that we need to think about this business as, where is God leading you? You are doing the work he has given you, the mission he's given you. And if that means stewarding your business well and knowing your numbers, then you need to know your numbers, right? Like you may not like it, but if we don't like it, when we say we don't like it, or at least when I say I didn't like it, it's because I was thinking about myself and thinking about what I wanted to do or didn't do. I was not having the mindset of, this is God's business. This is what he's leading me to do. I want to be a good steward of that business. When I say it that way, now I want to keep track of the numbers. I want to do my due diligence and make sure that I am stewarding God's resources that he's giving me, so that I make sure I am doing the things that he's leading me to do, so that when he asks me to do something, I have been a good steward up to that point, and I can say, yes, Lord, I can do that, and I will do that, right? So that if you're saying you don't like it, it could be because of the way you're looking at it. So I was just reminded of Philippians 2:3-4, where it says, do nothing from selfish or empty conceit, but with humility of mind, regarding one another as more important than yourselves. Do not merely look out for your own personal interest, but also for the interest of others. And that's another thing about knowing your numbers and being a good steward of the business and really stepping into whatever God's calling you to do, even if you're scared, even if it feels like it causes your life to change, etc. It's not even about only you. There are people that are going to be served on the other end of whatever God's calling you to. Your business, like right now, I'm helping people, like speaking through this podcast is speaking into other women. Every time I have a coaching client, on the other side of that coaching call, they had a breakthrough, an understanding. They see where God is leading them. They have clarity. They have healing around something that's been blocking them. If I didn't offer the services, then they couldn't have received that from me. And it's not just about me. So, we don't get to decide. We can't think about ourselves only. I mean, you totally can, but God doesn't call us to have a spirit of humility as Jesus did, who was so humble that he even to the death, right? That we were supposed to mimic and be disciples of Jesus. So even in our business, in way less of a scary situation, right? I mean, it's not going to the cross. It is having a business. It's getting out there online. It's sharing your offer. It's saying, yes, Lord, I'm here and I will do what you're asking me to do, even if it's scary, even if I don't feel qualified, even if I have no idea what I'm doing. I'll just say yes, and I will get the help I need. I will move forward. those are the things that I just want to share with you. So just a quick recap. So it's being a good steward of your business. You don't get to decide where God is leading, so don't try to stop him. And our journey isn't all about fun and comfort, but about serving others as well. So if this has been a struggle for you, what I want to encourage you to do is journal, or at least pray, or both really, about what's getting in the way for you in this area. I want you to pray for God to reveal anything that's hidden there. And then journal about it to explore what it means. Like, what is coming up for you? What's the real resistance around stepping into, I have a business. God is calling me to business and I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And, why does keeping track of your business and having business goals and hard numbers and all of that, like, why does that make you cringe? So, and then when you look at that, I want you to speak truth over it, pray over it, read it and see, like, does scripture say something different, and switch it around. So some other things to consider: are you holding on to certain ideas about money, success, what it means to own a business, etc.? And are these things keeping you from fully obeying God? Are you struggling to step into the identity of an entrepreneur or business owner, like we were talking about earlier? And that because of that disconnect in the identity, you're just saying no to moving forward. Do you have a previous job trauma that's stifling your stewardship? Maybe you used to crunch numbers like crazy in your job and that sucked the life out of you. So doing it now feels like it's too much. It's too close. It's too familiar in that way. And you don't want to feel that way again. But again, God uses everything for good. So just because that job got to you before doesn't mean that you can't now take that thing that you learned, that you have a skill in, and use it to the glory of God. And it's not going to suck the life out of you. In fact, it's going to do good things. So what does it mean to be, and then the final thing is I want you to ask yourself, what does it mean to be a good steward of your business? What would that look like? And I want to really encourage you to stay there, right? To stay in that place of, it doesn't make me a good steward in this season of my business to look at my numbers, to know my numbers, to have business goals, to think of this as a business. How would I show up if I'm being a good steward of my business? If you want help working through these things, through any of the mindset blocks, any of the things that are getting in the way, or just working through the decision in your business of what your goals should be, or what your goals could be, and where God's leading you, remember to grab a one-on-one biblical mindset coaching session. I'd love to serve you as your coach to help you get those breakthroughs. So again, go to momwithacalling.com/coaching and you'll see it there to grab that, and do it before the end of January 2023 because the prices are going up. I hope this episode spoke to you and helped you to have a more biblical mindset as an entrepreneur. That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. In the meantime, keep pursuing your calling. Thanks for listening to the Mama with a Calling podcast. As always, you'll find the show notes for today's episode at mamawithacalling.com/podcast. Really quick before you head out, are you loving these episodes? To make sure this podcast gets in the ears of as many mamas as possible, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I'm going to be reading your reviews on the podcast, so I can't wait to hear from you. Also, if you know someone that needs to hear these episodes, grab a screenshot and share it on Instagram, and don't forget to tag me at Mama with a Calling so I can share it in my stories. Until next time, keep pursuing your calling.